That morning in Boston, the city was quiet, too quiet for what was about to unfold. Hidden within a single corporate filing was news that would ripple across the biotech world. The company's name, X4 Pharmaceuticals. To most investors, it was just another small cap biotech on NASDAQ fighting for survival in a crowded field. But on that day, X4 achieved what no one else ever had. It received FDA approval for the world's first treatment for WHIM syndrome, a rare, life-threatening immune disorder. The drug was called mavorixafor, branded as XOLREMDI, and it represented a breakthrough decades in the making. WHIM syndrome, short for warts, hypogammaglobulinemia, infections, and myelokathexis, traps a patient's white blood cells in the bone marrow, leaving them defenseless against infection. The culprit is a receptor called CXCR4, a protein that controls how immune cells move through the body. When that receptor malfunctions, immune cells get stuck, essentially imprisoned inside the marrow. X4 Pharmaceuticals designed mavorixafor to block CXCR4's signaling, freeing immune cells and restoring the patient's ability to fight infection. In April 2024, the FDA approved mavorixafor for patients 12 years and older. It was the first and only drug of its kind. For patients and physicians, it was a historic moment, a scientific triumph. But for investors, it was the beginning of something strange. In the world of biotech, FDA approval is usually the holy grail. It's the moment when years of risk and research pay off, and a company's stock price often doubles or even triples overnight. Yet, X4's stock fell. Instead of celebration, the market reacted with silence and skepticism. For analysts, this was the first sign that something about this company and this story didn't fit the usual playbook. Shortly after approval, X4 received a priority review voucher, PRV, from the FDA, an incentive granted only to developers of rare pediatric disease treatments. These vouchers are highly valuable. They can be sold to other companies seeking expedited review of their own drugs. X4 sold its PRV for about $100 million, instantly strengthening its cash position. For most small biotechs, that amount of liquidity would be transformational. The next logical step would have been to hire a sales force, invest in marketing, and begin expanding access for patients. But X4 didn't do that. Instead, just weeks later, it announced another private placement, a new fundraising round that puzzled investors. And then, only months after that, the company launched a public offering, raising an additional $150 million. Even more unusually, it implemented a 1-for-30 reverse stock split to maintain compliance with NASDAQ's minimum bid price rule. This sequence, approval, fundraising, reverse split, was completely upside down from what investors expect. Normally, a reverse split follows failure, not success. It's a move made by companies that have lost market confidence, not those celebrating an FDA milestone. So what was happening? To understand the mystery, one has to look at the economics of ultra-rare diseases. X4's breakthrough drug, for all its scientific value, was targeting an incredibly small patient population. Globally, there are estimated to be fewer than 100 diagnosed WHIM patients, not even enough to fill a large hospital ward. The total addressable market for the drug, therefore, was almost non-existent in traditional financial terms. This made X4 Pharmaceuticals both a scientific hero and a commercial anomaly. The company had built a cure before the market existed, and that paradox explains much of what followed. In early 2025, X4 announced a major licensing deal with Norgine, a European specialty pharma company. The agreement granted Norgine exclusive rights to market mavorixafor in Europe, Australia, and New Zealand, with an upfront payment of 28 million euros, potential milestones up to 220 million euro, and double-digit royalties on future sales. On paper, this was a major success, an external validation of mavorixafor's global potential. Yet, within days of the announcement, X4 again sought new capital. To outside observers, it looked like desperation. Why would a company with new cash inflows, a commercial partner, and an approved drug need to keep raising money? The truth was more nuanced. X4 was not funding a collapse, it was funding expansion. Behind the scenes, the company was already preparing for the next phase of its strategy, a new indication for chronic neutropenia, CN, a condition where patients have abnormally low levels of neutrophils, a type of white blood cell. Unlike WHIM syndrome, CN affects tens of thousands of people globally. X4 launched its forward phase 3 trial for CN, aiming to broaden mavorixafor's reach into a much larger and more commercially viable market. The FDA granted fast-track designation for this program, recognizing both the medical need and the potential impact. The results are expected in late 2026, a timeline that, for long-term investors, might spell opportunity, but for short-term traders, feels like eternity. As the company executed this long-term plan, the market continued to misunderstand it. In Europe, the EMA began reviewing mavorixafor's marketing authorization application, MAA, in early 2025, with a decision anticipated in the first half of 2026. In the Middle East, X4 signed an exclusive distribution agreement with Taiba Rare, covering 7 countries including Saudi Arabia and the UAE. These moves were strategic, aimed at securing footholds in multiple regions. But even these global expansions couldn't mask one glaring problem. The company's cash burn was massive. In an effort to extend its runway, X4 cut nearly half of its workforce, aiming to save $13 million annually. Once again, this move clashed with market logic. Normally, after a successful drug approval, companies scale up their commercial teams, not downsize them. Investors were confused, some even alarmed. Was this cost-cutting a sign of discipline or distress? Every decision X4 made seemed to defy convention. And in that defiance lies the deeper mystery. The company had done everything right, secured approval, raised funds, partnered globally, advanced a second indication, yet its stock price kept falling. The market's message was clear. Investors didn't believe the story. Not yet. But perhaps the disbelief itself was the real clue. In biotech, markets tend to reward visible, short-term profits, not invisible, long-term transformations. The economics of rare diseases are fundamentally different. They move slowly, rely heavily on patient identification networks, and take years before sales stabilize. Investors, however, live quarter to quarter. Science moves with precision. Markets move with emotion. X4's paradox was not that it failed, it was that it succeeded in a way the market wasn't built to understand. As of late 2025, the company stands at a crossroads. It holds the only FDA-approved drug for WHIM syndrome, a potential multi-indication pipeline, and a global network of distribution partners. Yet it remains valued as though it has none of these. Its next 2 milestones, the EMA decision in early 2026 and the forward trial results in late 2026, will likely determine whether the market finally catches up with the science. X4 Pharmaceuticals' story is not just about a company. It's about the gap between innovation and belief, between data and trust. It's about how a cure can exist long before the world is ready to pay for it. And perhaps that is the true essence of the X4 mystery. Not failure, but premature success. ValueStir invites you to share your thoughts and insights. Are there other stocks, listed, unlisted, or upcoming IPOs, or even cryptocurrency projects you believe deserve a deep dive analysis? Leave your ideas in the comments. Your suggestion could inspire our next investigation. And to all our dedicated viewers who watch, subscribe, like, comment, and share our videos, thank you sincerely. Your engagement drives us to keep creating sharper, deeper, and more revealing content. This was ValueStir.